It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. My lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. Every night, I and my army of bots scour the internet for news and content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and every day when I say that line, for some reason, I feel compelled to adjust my glasses. I'm not sure why. My glasses are so scratched, adjusting them does nothing. I have one of these things around here that I can use. You get these when you buy camera lenses. They're actually quite cool. They've got like this little brush on them, and since using the cloth, even the soft cloth, scratched the crap out of my glasses, I now use this little thing and I brush it off. Anyway, hi. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope that those of you who live in places where things are happening this week are prepared for whatever that means. I see that it's just getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and I hope that one day all the craziness goes away. If you're watching live on Twitch or on YouTube, click the thumbs up button or the follow button or the hey, Adrian Goins is awesome button. That's what we should call it. Click the Adrian Goins is awesome button. Oh my god, my camera's in the frame. Oh, let me move that. Not my camera. That made no sense at all. My microphone is in the frame. Hang on. Ooh, there we go. We were using the cameras all weekend long, so I had to readjust all the zoom settings and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, click the buttons, do the things, be the stuff. And so today's intro is totally all over the place. Yeah, okay, so Nuno just said no buffering on Twitch. That's good. The internet sucks. It's sucked for about a week and a half. It sucked all weekend. It's probably going to suck today. I've sent an email to my primary ISP that I pay a bunch of money to. Hopefully I pay enough money to them that they can go and figure out why somebody flipped some switch somewhere that made the internet suck. So if it buffers, if it does stuff, whatever, I apologize. There's nothing I can do about it. But I do record these locally. So I'm just going to continue like there's no problem. And then of course, you can watch the replay afterwards. Sorry. Try to get it fixed. Anyway, who's in the chat? We have lots of people in the chat today. Where'd my mouse go? Ian, hello. Frank, hello. Vito, hola. Nuno, of course. Mr. Steve G. Gerald B, good morning. Wifebot. Smalls. Thank you all for joining me. Yeah, I see complaints about the video. I'm sorry. Well, Anyway, RestreamBot, hello. Carolina Luz, hello. Okay, nice. Wifebot, wonderful image. Let's get started. Somebody just posted a sloth in the GIF thing. Yeah, I can see that I'm set for 4.5 and it's sort of crippling itself along at 4.0, 4.1. Let me change this to 3.5 really quick. Because you know what? When you pay for 10 megabits per second, let's see, apply. Okay. I just set it to 3.5, so hopefully that'll be enough. It's interesting. When you pay for 10 megabits a second here, they guarantee that you'll get 10 megabits per second from your house to whatever's on the other end of the link. And beyond that, they're like, And I fully understand that I'm not expecting 10 megabits per second out to endpoints in Europe or the United States that are 400 milliseconds away, but it would be really nice if I could get 10 megabits per second from here to Santiago, which is where we were trying to stream to this weekend, to a YouTube endpoint that used to be 11 milliseconds away, and we could get 2 megabits per second to it. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what happens here in this country of wonderfulness, but let's talk about something else. This project came up a week or so ago, and I didn't put it on the show 2 weeks ago. Because I didn't really understand what it did, because they have really nothing that explains what it does. We know that it's an alpha, we know that it's some guy's side project, we know that you can install it, but they updated it with this interesting quote from the service binding specification for Kubernetes. And I'm still not 100% sure what this does, but just bear with me here. So it looks to me like the idea is that applications need a way to get secret data for other stuff that they depend on in some kind of automated fashion. So this specification, now this is not from this project, but the specification aims to create a Kubernetes-wide specification, it's a little bit of redundancy there, for communicating service secrets to applications in an automated way. It aims to create a widely applicable mechanism, but without excluding other strategies for systems that it does not fit easily. Okay, a little bit of vague vagary as well. The benefit of Kubernetes-wide specification is that all of the actors in an ecosystem can work towards a clearly defined abstraction at the edge of their expertise and depend on other parties to complete the chain. That sounds reasonable. So that's the spec, the service binding specification for Kubernetes. And this person started a project to do that, and it's called kubepreset. He has a website here called kubepreset.dev that says the same thing as the README. So not a lot of information there, and based on that, I didn't put it on the show. If what I just said resonates with you in some way, if you're like, oh man, yeah, I totally understand this, I'm following the, whatever that was, the service binding spec, and I'm interested in projects that'll allow my applications to get access to secrets in some sort of automated fashion, well, they did a demo at the service binding working group a few days ago, 3 days ago. And this gentleman down here, Baiju, is the creator of the other project, and there's a bunch of other people on here. So this is 8 minutes long. This is the actual thing that I'm talking about today. Oh, my camera's a little bit off here. Nope, wrong direction. How about that way? Suddenly Adrian gets very large. So anyway, this is what I'm actually talking about today. If you're curious to know what the other one was, then you can go and watch this, and they do a demo of it. And at this point, you're probably wondering, hey, Adrian, if you watched the demo, why can't you explain what it is? And that's because I didn't watch the demo, because I was putting all of this stuff together late last night, and I don't usually watch videos. I skim through them. But in this case, I knew enough to know I didn't know anything, and maybe I'll go watch this afterwards. Ozzy works at Red Hat now. Yes, Nuno, you noticed that. Ozzy Osbourne works at Red Hat. Cool. I don't know. Zoom bombing. Good morning, Mac. Hey, Justin. Merlin. And in fact, based on Merlin, we're going to do another one. No? Oh, do I even have? Oh, I didn't even put them on. Okay, good. We're just going to go right to it right after this. So, Merlin. Kubernetes-friendly machine learning model management, deployment, and serving. Oh, that's a wonderful picture of Ozzy, WifeBot. Thank you. Did you ever see the video of like Ozzy when he was actually, well, I don't know, the dude doesn't really have much of a brain left anyway, but there was a video of him where he was demonstrating his brainlessness. I don't know if he was high on coke at the time or if he was sober at the time, but if he ever had a brain, he baked that thing right out of his head. Merlin is a platform for deploying and serving machine learning models. They believe that the model deployment should be easy and self-serving. Self-serving? Self-service? It says self-serve. It's up to me to interpret that. Scalable, fast, and cost-efficient. It attempts to do so by abstracting infrastructure and auto-scaling built on top of Knative and KF serving. I've never heard of KF serving. And then the end of the README. But if you go to their docs, they actually have some interesting stuff. So the idea here is that most people can train their models inside of their Jupyter notebooks or somewhere else, but then deploying the models is a challenge. So they want to set themselves up as a solution for deploying your machine learning models so that they can actually do stuff. Set up an endpoint. It's got a UI, which I don't think they have a picture of. More and more machine learning stuff is popping up. I don't want to just limit it to the big players. Anytime I see anything that looks pretty well put together, that's going to be a theme for today's show. I'm giving you some foreshadowing here. The theme for today's show is professionalism in the stuff that you release. Just remember that. Because in a moment, I'm going to come back to it. Anyway, professional, nice, friendly, great. So there you go. Then there's another one that I forgot to actually load. So let's drag this back to Merlin, and let's go to, it was lobe.ai, right? Yes. This showed up last week. And, well, it's for more than identifying plants. But basically, it's an app that you download, and you just basically show it a bunch of pictures and train it, and then it'll generate a model for you that you can go and put into your application. The example that they use is pictures of plants. And it's supposed to be dead simple. It's totally free and totally private because you run it on your own machine. And then it's available for Mac and Windows. You can export your model and you can ship it to any platform. The only thing that I'm doing machine learning with is natural language processing, which this kind of stuff doesn't do or work for. But I think it'd be cool for, do you remember Not a Hot Dog? Like, you know, the guy trained that model to detect a hot dog and a not a hot dog, and it was actually successfully able to detect a hot dog when compared to the thing that you would think people were probably trying to compare it to. Not a hot dog. And we've come so far from that to where now you can, now you can just show things pictures. Should show it lots of pictures of, like, I don't even know. I don't actually know what I would use machine learning for image classification in my immediate environment. But hell, there you go. It's neat. Moving on. Here's a guest blog post on the OpenFast blog. It talks about how you can use OpenFast functions as the webhook destination for admission webhooks. Oh. Cool. I like it. A little bit uncomfortable with the dependency aspect of it. If for some reason OpenFast isn't running in the cluster, then your webhook isn't going to work, and your other stuff that depends on it isn't going to, that's a hot dog, isn't going to work. But I do like this from the concept of demonstrating the kinds of things that you can use serverless functions for. And you can use them for all sorts of stuff. It's not just, you know, Lambda clones, but you can actually bundle OpenFast or any serverless thing into the core functionality of your Kubernetes cluster, depending on, you know, for other things. So this gives you a walkthrough of deploying it just in a sample environment with kind, and you know, a sample project, and then setting up labels and testing that things get rejected or not rejected according to the webhook configuration. Cool. Also from laughing at the chat. If you're not in the chat, you should join the chat. There's live chat that happens on, you know, on Twitch and YouTube, but the real chat is actually happening on Discord, because when the streams end, that's where the chat continues. So, oh, sheep, nice. So come join Discord. Let me fire up the news crawler there, and that'll send you a link. Okay, starting yesterday or tomorrow or today or something like that, apparently Docker has rolled back some of the stuff that they were talking about doing. I don't know exactly what, but I think that people are really angry. But definitely rate limits are going in. And so, just to remind you, if you're an unauthenticated user, you get 100 pulls out of 6 hours. If you're an authenticated user, you get 200 pulls per 6 hours. And if you're paying and authenticated, because, well, okay, then you get unlimited downloads. People have responded to this by setting up other free registries that people are moving their stuff to. There's this mass exodus from Docker. I tell you, Docker doesn't care. Docker wants the people who don't want to pay for them to leave their service, because that's just good business. Like, you build a product for the people who want to use the product, and the people who don't pay for the product can go right the hell away. So what they're going to be left with are a smaller subset of people for whom they can deliver really good service, and people who care enough about Docker to pay for it. If you are looking for alternatives, there are many. You can use a local mirror of the Docker Hub. And I disagree with this article where it says, oh, it's bad because it'll require additional infrastructure and storage, and someone will need to own it and babysit it if it crashes or dies. You better hope that it can be restored quickly, son. A little bit more foreshadowing about professionalism in the stuff that you write. This is kind of okay because it's a blog article, but imagine that level of casual communication in, say, professional documentation. Just remember that. Anyway, so you better hope it can be restored quickly. And for new Kubernetes users, the little babies, this is going to be an unfortunate burden on your learning curve, which is steep enough as it is. BS. It's trivial to deploy a caching server, and everybody should have one. What sucks about using the Docker registry one is that you need a different Docker registry caching server for every single remote registry that you're trying to talk to. And then you have a different port, and then you have to remember what's on what and who's on where, and where is your image located, and that certainly sucks because it's not what it was designed for. But I'll tell you that Sonatype Nexus is free. I mean, you can also pay for it, but at their free tier, you can have a local caching registry. It's a pull-through cache. It can also be a destination registry. It can also cache all sorts of artifacts for everything, not just Docker containers, but Helm charts and Java stuff and Python stuff and Ruby stuff and stuff. It's all in there, totally free. And the best thing about it is that you can just make it a pull-through cache, and it indexes all of the remote registries and will figure out where your container image that you're requesting is. It's totally transparent. It's totally amazing. I totally run it. I totally recommend it. And if you're a new Kubernetes baby, well, I have more faith in you than some people do. Otherwise, moving on. Not really meaning to rant today, but I'm getting warmed up for what's coming in another couple of tabs here. Basically, what this article is talking about is they want to get you down to blah, blah, blah. Push your images to another registry, blah, blah, blah. There we go. This is what he wants to get you down to. Our solution for image pull secrets. Alex created registry creds, which I think is pretty cool. If you want to just use the 200 authenticated pulls, well, then you need to make sure that all of your pulls are authenticated. So this registry creds tool will create a new CRD called a cluster pull secret, and then it distributes that around the Kubernetes cluster so that all of your pulls are now authenticated, and immediately you get from 100 to 200. So if you're at like 106, this is a great solution. If you're at 255 or 201 even, well, then too bad. Small says, in my opinion, Docker should have had rate limiting like this from day one like GitHub does. Yes, you're absolutely right. They should have. But when somebody's giving you $1 billion, you don't really think about how not to spend it. And I will also tell you, in all honesty, when VCs give you money, you have to spend it. They're not giving you money so that you can save it for a rainy day. They're giving you money so that you can spend it on growth, so that they can hopefully blow your company up to a size where somebody comes along and acquires it and they get their ROI. That's the only thing that VCs are after. So I've worked at companies that they were given, what looked like a fat chunk of change, but they were told they had 6 months to spend it. And so they put this whole growth plan in place. They spend all of the money. They get to the end of the 6 months. They may even have a term sheet for another investment. And then depending on market conditions, the VC at one place I worked, the VC was like, we're not going to give you any more money. And down went the company. So yes, they should have had rate limiting in place from day one, but maybe they thought that the money rain was never going to end. This is a cool article. Scopio's been popping up a little bit more lately, and if you have images on Docker Hub and you'd like to move them to somewhere else like Quay or any other place, GitHub container registry, if it was me, I would just push the image there because all of my stuff is built locally. But, who knows? Maybe you have a lot of stuff and you don't want to go and rebuild it all. You don't want to repush it all from your local machine or whatever. So he demonstrates here how to use Scopio to basically pull something down and push it into another registry. He has a video about it too, linked up at the top there. Otherwise, it's basically Scopio copy from here to there. The end. Neat. Ka-ching, says the wife bought GIF. Yes. Yeah, dude, when people are throwing money at you, it's like, what can we spend this on? I was going to say, what stupid feature can we build? And that also happens. Like, a lot of companies want to be responsible, and I know that there are places out there where they want to be frugal with their money because they recognize, 7 days of fat, 7 years of fat, 7 years of lean. And the VCs are like, no, we won't give you money unless you show us how you're going to spend all of this money in a year or 6 months or whatever. HA Proxy had a nice press release at the end of last week that said that they are the first load balancing option for VMware vSphere with Tanzu. When I think of VMware vSphere with Tanzu, okay, I said VMware. You know what's about to happen. When I think of VMware vSphere with Tanzu, I think, oh yeah, that's VMware trying to be Kubernetes. And so then I'm really confused why Tanzu has been out and it doesn't have a load balancing solution. Why would you do that? There's lots of load balancing solutions for Kubernetes. There's also lots of load balancing solutions that you can run on a virtual machine. So here you have Kubernetes and virtual machines, and HA Proxy is the first load balancing solution, or some shit. So did I just say that? So whatever, it's a press release, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, we promised that we were going to be nice to VMware. We promised. And those of you who work at VMware, with one exception, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking about you. VMware makes Red Hat look good. When you look at anything that Red Hat does, and Red Hat used to have this position in my life where I was like, blah, Red Hat. But all of Red Hat's software and all of Red Hat's documentation and all of Red Hat's everything is crisp and concise, and it's professional. I look at the stuff that VMware's doing and I feel like it's just a raging drunk in like a bazaar in Turkey or something that's just like knocking stuff over and like flailing its arms around as it's trying to figure out what it's doing. So I go to look at HA Proxy's repo and they say, we're not going to tell you. Instead, why don't you go look at the Tanzu Quick Start Guide. Quick Start. So I go to look at the Tanzu Quick Start Guide page and it says, okay, you can go get the PDF. Okay. So I go get the PDF and I'm like, vSphere with Tanzu Quick Start Guide. Okay, so this is how to set Tanzu up in a lab network for POC testing. Quick Start Guide. Quick Start. Quick Start. Quick. Quick. Nope. Still quick. It's 49 pages long. It's 49 pages long on how to set up a POC. Somewhere around page 23, you get to HA Proxy installation. Yay! So you are now ready to deploy the HA Proxy load balancer. Let's decide on our network configuration and then collect the information we're going to need to accomplish this task. And so I'm reading about the limitations of it, and I get down to, now remember, this is professional documentation that was released by VMware. So this means if the VIP range is blah and there happens to be a gateway on blah, anyone or anything trying to access a host on blah is going to have a bad time. The appliance will argue it owns blah any routes that require the gateway blah failing in the process. A, gonna have a bad time, not professional. B, incomplete sentence fragment followed by a run-on. C, no editing done in this at all. So I continued, I was willing to forgive that. But when I scrolled down to see just how long it was, I got down to page 49. Where's page 49? Where to go for more on using Kubernetes. If all of that worked, then you're now ready to move on to the VMware's GitLab. So if all of that worked, the 48 pages previous to this might not have worked, in which case we're sorry. But you're ready to move on to VMware's GitLab. The link to that is below. What does this link say? GitHub.com. Like they make it so easy. So VMware's GitLab is located at github.com. I looked at page 23 and I looked at page 49, and on both of those I saw egregious errors. I'm 100% sure I could grab any other page on this. So I'm going to tweet about this later and just be like, ugh, you guys, like, why? It's not like you don't have the money to do it right. So I went and I decided to look up who VMware Tanzu's Twitter handle was, because I tweet direct mentions to stuff, and I'm going to tell them, like, your guide is crap. So I found this link, this tweet from October 13th from VMware Tanzu. You can see up at the top there, saying, what do vSphere customers think of Tanzu Kubernetes Grid? Notice that they've referenced at Tanzu and at Kubernetes. At Tanzu is a user named Tanzila who has 5 followers and has 1 tweet, and his account is basically dead. It's an account from 2011. At Kubernetes is LLM International Trade Legal Manager, which is a company in Tehran. I don't look for this. I can't make this up. VMware Tanzu doesn't know their own Twitter handle and can't even reference the main Twitter handle for the product from the... Yeah, Vito, it's totally true. It's totally true. This is not the company that I want building. Like, regardless of the people that work there, this is a company, I don't want anything to do with them. Little things like this are indicative of larger problems. Okay, we only got 5 minutes left. That's the end of the rant section. I wasn't gonna do that until thing after thing after thing that I found was just like, really? Really? Wifebot can tell you. Like, first I was angry, and then I was just laughing hysterically, especially at the tweet. Fools! Let's go back to the happy shit. Oh man, I'm swearing today. Let's go back to the happy stuff. Steve Jaguar says Conway's Law. Steve, tell us what Conway's Law is in the chat. Okay, this is from Hava. This is not free, but this is super cool. We had some stuff on last week about generating network diagrams, and I listed a whole bunch of tools and a bunch of things, and then we had a follow-up to that. Well, this one, you just point it at your AWS environment, and it goes through and it crawls all of the stuff, and it generates interactive network diagrams for all of your resources. So you got like VPCs that you can drill into. It's got monthly cost estimates. It shows you, there's a better picture there. So it shows you all of the different things that are running and how they're connected to one another. You can get all these different views. So here's actual workloads and like the stuff. I don't know, what are we looking at here? This is ECS. So this is related to containers, what's running, what's busted, what's not running. That's what the white ones are. So here you have running and not running. But busted stuff would show up in red. Here you have security groups and how they cascade through from one to the other. Super neat. And so on. I'll have this linked up. It's not cheap, but if you use AWS and you have complex AWS environments, there's a nice thing about being able to view stuff visually, which is that our brains understand, well, that doesn't look right. So having something dynamically and in real time generate network diagrams for the relationships between all of your stuff will save you oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of time. Their pricing starts at $49 a month for a personal account. You have unlimited environments, infrastructure diagrams, but then you need to get into the business or professional ones if you want to get into the security diagrams or the container diagrams or some of the automatic stuff. I think if you're a company and you are heavily invested in AWS, this is probably a no-brainer. Steve says, Conway's Law is your ability to communicate as an organization is reflected in your product. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Today I learned. Yeah, Max says this is a cool tool for uncomplicating AWS sprawl and also even seeing where it is. Like you could probably see a bunch of disconnected snapshots or storage volumes or what I guess EBS volumes. You know, you could just skim through it in the morning and be like, oh, boom. And then especially with the pricing estimates. I don't know what it needs. Max asking what level of access it needs for being able to view all of this stuff. I don't think it would need God mode because I doubt it doesn't need to provision anything. So it might just need read-only mode to infrastructure components, not even to like IAM policies or anything like that. Real quick, K9s had a big release. There's a bunch of cool stuff in there. You can describe YAML. There's now you can see resources and or requests and limits for CPU and memory. You can see, you have the ability to tweak your container images for experimentation. You can turn the crumbs on or off where it shows you how you've drilled down. There are filters available. There's a new config. This came out 4 days ago. This is 0.23.0, so it's a major release drop. And then there have been 2 updates to it since then, 3 updates to it since then to fix some of the bugs that he knew obviously with major release, there's always going to be some bugs. So he was right on top of that with 3-point releases that came out within like a day afterwards. Small says, by the way, that quick guy would have been much longer if using NSXT with it. Yeah. Yeah. I will also put a link up for this. There's not much to talk about it, so I'll still put it in today's show. Whoops, it's actually this one. There are all these blogs out there of like where you can get material to learn about Kubernetes. And the internet being what it is, as soon as these things are released, they're outdated. So as I find new ones, I'll talk about them. This is one from last week, and he has a whole bunch of links to other blogs and videos and things like that. So if you're new in your Kubernetes journey, here's a bunch of stuff, including he links videos. He has example stuff for like little lab things that you can do. And oh, he didn't have his Twitter handle up. There it is. Good. So I can give him credit. I spent a lot of time looking for that last night. Now onto the tool of the day. Tool of the day. Lego Logic 16 wants to know quickest way to learn Kubernetes. Deploy it and use it. So beginner's guide to Kubernetes. Yeah. So Lego Logic, I guess this is going to be for you. If you join the community site, you will have access to these links today. Otherwise, you'll see them in the YouTube video when it gets released to the rest of the internet tomorrow. The community site is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's free. Come join. kubeswitch. I'm a big fan of kubectx and kubeNS, and this popped up. This allows you to switch contexts and namespaces in a tree. Let me scroll that up so you can actually see it. More keystrokes, but if you have a lot of contexts, and so, you know, rather than typing cluster 3, you could just do this and hit down arrow a couple of times, or going directly into a namespace, which right now with kubectx, I have to switch context and then switch namespaces because I'm never 100% sure what namespace I left it in, so I just switch to the namespace that I want to work in all of the time. kubeswitch is a very common name. There's another kubeswitch that was released in 2019 that does a similar thing, but without the namespace support in your Mac system menu tray. I thought about putting that on the show, but I'm guessing it probably doesn't run now because it's not signed by an official Mac developer, and Mac hates people who build stuff for themselves. So here you go, kubeswitch. I'll have a link to this, and that's it. That's it. If you liked what you saw today, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitch to get notifications. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord thing. Links to everything that I talk about go up on the show. Links to everything I talk about on the show go up in the free community site at community.cncn.io. After the show ends, you can come join us. It's totally free. Lego Logic, that's for you. And I'm sorry, somebody just posted something in the chat that got my attention, and it wasn't Nuno. So membership is free. The community is growing every day. Come hang out with us. Join the Discord server. The chat continues all through the day and the night and the weekend. If you have something you'd like for me to consider on the show, hit me up and let me know. There's all sorts of ways to find me. Links are in the video description, Discord, Twitter. Just don't come knock on my door. Have a great day, everyone. If you're in the United States, oh my gosh, please be safe. Just please be safe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next show. What was it? That's right. Stay caffeinated.